Coming up on a special Labor Day edition of the Beaufort News, City of Beaufort Mayor Billy Kaiserling joins us to talk about Labor Day, jobs, and of course we're going to talk business. And joining us later is Rob Wells, the Executive Director of the Tourism Division for the Beaufort Regional Chamber of Commerce will be here. We've got all that and much more. I'm Jessa Jeremiah. Keep watching Beaufort. Your special edition of the Beaufort News starts now. Thanks for joining us for the Beaufort News. Joining us first is Mayor Billy Kaiserling. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you today.
Delighted to be here. I love to have the opportunity to talk to you.
Absolutely. We love to get your perspective as always. Now, I want to talk Labor Day. We've got this
Labor Day
wonderful special edition news to present, and I want to talk to you about just your perspective, really, as mayor. What's important to you about Labor Day? Why celebrate?
Well, you know, we've come to think of Labor Day as the end of summer. Maybe the weather cooling off a little bit, children going back to school, settling in again, I guess, after the irregularities of summer. We think of it as a day off. We think of it as family picnics and going to the beach or out in the river. And, you know, we have to be careful not to forget what Labor Day is really all about. It didn't become a federal holiday because it's the end of summer. It didn't become a federal holiday so people could go on picnics. It became a federal holiday in celebration of American workers. And, in fact, at that point in time, the work that the American labor movement had achieved, and that was better work conditions, better wages, dealing with child labor laws and abuse. And so while we all take the day off and we go have fun, I think we should all think about the meaning and the history and what working conditions were like in this country before they were cleaned. Labor unions are somewhat controversial, and maybe more so in the South. I'm not sure they do what they were meant to do. I'm not sure they can be celebrated today for bringing about the kind of service to their workers. But back then, when you had people working in sweatshops, the organizing and the negotiating with employees has advanced industry, made workers more productive, made families more financially comfortable, created more opportunities for kids to go to college. So to take a moment while we're picnicking or water skiing or sitting on the sandbar of the beach to remember that's how it became a federal holiday, and that's why we have the day off.
Absolutely.
To me, it has another dimension.
Okay.
And that is the dimension to fulfill the promise that the young people in the Low Country have been told was there for many, many years. And that is better jobs, closer to home, with skilled labor and wages so that the young people in school could basically see a relationship between staying in school and the opportunity to live perhaps better than the way they grew up, to have a nicer home, a nicer car, a better education for their children. You know, that's been a focus of the city for the past year and a half. We had, before that, relied on the county and the regional economic development in the state. But City Council basically said, you know, if no one else is going to do it, let's jump in there. And by bringing the mayor of Hilton Head in, the mayor of Bluffton in, the mayor of Port Royal in, and getting involved in that economic alliance that was sort of upside down and dizzy and not knowing where it's going, it's working again. And you know, we've announced EcoDual, a company that transitions diesel engines from diesel into natural gas. We just announced Dewar Composites, which is state-of-the-art development of composites for making anything from parts for airplanes and submarines to boats. Fascinating. So I think that we ought to think about the fact that we in this region have missed out on some of that value added to the young people in our community. We have done extremely well through tourism and retirement living at importing wealth. We haven't done particularly well at generating wealth for the people who live here. And so there's a balance.
Sure.
That's not to say we don't want to continue to import, and we don't want to be a destination for tourists. But it's to say that we ought to hold out something just a little bit better to the next generation, and that's where we're headed. And it's not a quick process. It's very competitive and takes a lot of time, but you know, we're slowly chipping away at it. And the good news is the county council and all four of the municipalities are working hand in hand under the Economic Alliance, and so we're moving forward. So, you know, back to the sandbar, the water skiing, the beach, the picnics. Remember the foundation and recommit yourself to finding those jobs that we've all been telling young people we would bring to them.
Absolutely. Well, some very important points and a great perspective. And we're just getting started with Mayor Billy Keyserling. So we've got lots more to ask you. Please stick around. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to the Beaufort News. In case you missed anything, I am joined by Mayor Billy Keyserling, who joins us for a special edition of the Beaufort News. Now, we've been talking Labor Day, we've been talking jobs, we've got your perspective on the holiday, and you know about some of the jobs here in Beaufort that have been growing, which we're so thankful for. I want to ask you a little bit more about your perspective on jobs, but also, you know, really about how we've gone about and how you've gone about making the city more competitive with other places. So talk to us about that if you would.
Okay. First, let me say that it's really not the city, it's the region. If I can help recruit an industry to Hilton Head, I want to do that because we're all one and we're working together. But I think that there are basically three pieces to the formula for economic development. One is having dirt, a place that is zoned, that is friendly to business, that can get them up and running quickly. And so the city, about 18 months ago, purchased the failed the Commerce Park, and has organized the companies that are there to talk to them about how they can grow and the kinds of industries that come with them. The second is workforce. And I think we've been under the illusion, because so many of our people have historically been underemployed and undereducated, that we were at a disadvantage because of the workforce. But what we've come to realize is that we have one of the hugest competitive advantages of any community in the state of South Carolina. And that is the 1,000 plus or minus men and women who are transitioning out of the military into the workforce.
Absolutely.
As many people know, Beaufort is a preferred assignment. Some of the people who come to Beaufort for the first time say, oh my God, I'm going to some little backward southern town. But when they re-up, where do they want to go? They want to come back to Beaufort. When they retire, many would like to stay there and keep and raise their families there.
You got it.
But we haven't had the jobs for them. So we have a disciplined, focused, earn and learn experienced, drug-free young man or woman who's coming out of the military. And what we have to do is help them build a bridge to the jobs that are going to come here. Some of the jobs will be in Charleston, some will be in Savannah, some may be on Hilton Head. Hopefully, once we get recognized as having this talent pool, the jobs are going to come to Beaufort. And so building a culture, one company at a time, so that children can look at it, so that we can begin to feed military people in it, is a huge advantage. We've, in fact, an old friend of mine from the state legislature is the mayor of Sumter, and we're talking about joining together and having a parallel program in Sumter, because they have the Army and the Air Force there. We have the Marine Corps and the Navy here. We would cover all four services. There are literally tens of thousands of websites out there about transitioning, but none of them really get the point. They think it's about training, they think it's about job interview, they think it's about a resume, it's about all of that. But the missing link, and what nobody has seen, that has taken us 3 years to learn, and we did it through a nonprofit. This is not the government, this is me and a retired general and a retired widow of another general, going out. And what we realize is that cultures don't match. the culture of an industry and the culture of the military. Because military people are basically taught to run straight, to walk straight lines, and to be flexible where they needed to be, but flexible around certain things. So they think this way. In industry, sometimes they think this way. And so we've started a program where we actually do personal counseling as well as the introductions. We help them learn the language of industry so that they can take their MOS, their job description from the military, and translate it into something that means something to that human resources officer in a corporation who may be interviewing. It's very exciting. I think it's a model for the nation.
Absolutely. What a great program that, like you said, that transitional phase is talked about often, but to come in with an approach like that is very interesting and should bode very well for future military personnel.
I had a high-ranking Marine Corps official tell me that about half of the recruits who come through Parris Island, when they leave after a 4-year stint, having probably been deployed twice, they go home to the bed they slept in before they went in the Marine Corps. They eat at the family table. They eat their mother's cooking, like they did before they came in the Marine Corps. They use their post-9/11 GI Bill to take some courses at community college, their $1,200 stipend to drink beer, and within 4 years, what they've learned, they've lost. What they learned and what they gained and they earned from defending their country was really a head start for them. If we could have caught them when they were coming out and helped them through that, you don't have to go home. You don't have to stay dependent. You can stand on your own, and we can help you get a job that's going to let you do that. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing your thoughts on that, because we're going to have to check back with you on some of these initiatives, because I think it's really important. And I know these are huge challenges for you as mayor. I wanted to ask you about some other challenges. I'm going to have to catch up with you another time.
Well, let's just call challenges opportunities.
Absolutely, yes. We'll have to catch up and
we'll
see
talk about more of those opportunities.
What other opportunities you have as mayor. So
terrific.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And we appreciate you greatly.
Happy Labor Day.
Happy Labor Day to you too. And we're going to be right back. We have Rob Wells just after the break, who's joining us from the Beaufort Regional Chamber of Commerce. We're going to get his input on tourism this summer. Stick around. Welcome back to this special edition of the Beaufort News. Joining us now, as promised, from the Beaufort Regional Chamber of Commerce, the Executive Director of the Tourism Division, we have Mr. Rob Wells.
Thank you.
So, thank you so much for joining us today. Such a pleasure to have you. We're here to talk about tourism, and I want to know mainly how Beaufort fared throughout the summer months. So just sum up, if you would, this year's summer season for tourism.
Certainly. What started off as what we'd call a sluggish spring. We had some wet weather and everything taken in. So it built up a little bit of momentum. People started to making their plans. We're looking forward toward the summer. And in northern Beaufort County and southern Beaufort County alike, we saw tremendous numbers. From May to August, we have seen, and this past Labor Day weekend, we have seen just tremendous reservations and occupancy levels. And the great thing about this year is that our summer season was built on, not deep discounted rooms, but at full bulk rate, and therefore people are making a lot of money in the tourism industry, and it's a good time, good summer.
Absolutely. Well, that's so good to hear and very promising, of course. Now, you mentioned that we've had an increase. So talk to us about, what really played into this year's increase, in your opinion?
Well, a lot of it has to do with just the kind of the stacking on of some superlatives, if you will. Hilton Head being named Best Beach Town. Beaufort, of course, being named the happiest seaside town. The momentum that's building, the buzz that's out there about that area as a destination led to it. And, Fripp and Harbor having, tremendous occupancy levels this year. Hunting Island turning in, at the campsite, having a tremendous time. And then in town, downtown areas, the bed and breakfasts, the inns, everything from the Cuthbert House and the City Loft receiving their designations on TripAdvisor and in AAA respectively, being listed higher. it put Beaufort on the forefront of a lot of people's mind, and I think that allowed the momentum to keep building. And what a sluggish spring to start with, people made those vacation plans during the summer, and it's been we've reaped the benefits of it.
Absolutely, some really big accomplishments
Yeah.
for the area, definitely. With these kinds of factors at play, talk to me a little bit about some trends that you may see developing for the fall or future seasons here in Beaufort.
Well, we're starting to see that as the fall weather comes in and the cooler temperatures start to come into the south, we're going to start to see people, kind of releasing their pocketbooks a little bit for those weekend getaways. And that is a core demographic that we target in northern Beaufort County especially. People, the empty nesters, want an opportunity to just, reconnect with one another. And they find a quaint bed and breakfast in a historic, downtown area setting. And by the water, that's Beaufort to a T. We also feel like that there's a lot of outdoor activities that our folks are looking towards, kind of a wellness component, if you will, to life. And Beaufort sets itself up very well for that. From an overall standpoint, though, the tourism season for the fall, our leisure tourism season stands to be a fairly strong this year. We're excited about it.
All right, so lots to look forward
Yeah.
to. So, Rob, I've got more questions for you. We're going to take a quick break. So we'll be back with more from Rob Wells and the Beaufort Regional Chamber of Commerce after this. So stick around. Welcome back to the Beaufort News. If you're just joining us, I have Mr. Rob Wells here, who joins us from the Beaufort Regional Chamber of Commerce, here to talk about tourism and how Beaufort has fared so far this summer. So we've gotten some great answers from you so far. I've got more to ask you. I want to talk to you a little bit about marketing. So before the break, you referenced a momentum that we've experienced in Beaufort. And I want to know what some of the changes are to the marketing efforts that you feel have really led to this major momentum.
Fair question. We have a three-prong approach here. It's kind of a circle, if you will. We want to take the appropriate message, the content, pair it with the appropriate audience. And that alignment allows us to focus on our own media, the social, the website, in which we have redone, recreated, redesigned. It takes a paid placement in which, what areas are we going to target and how are we going to get our message out to those particular, maybe those visitors or soon-to-be visitors. And then our earned media, in which we go out seeking and have travel writers come in and help tell our story. And we feel like those three-pronged approach have led for us to build a more consistent message and allowed us to get our story out there. And that leads us to it. So when you take the paid placement and we go into somewhere like a new market, like a Yankee magazine in the Northeast, or a good Southern Living or Garden and Gun, or one of the magazines that we feature here in the South, our message is very simple. We build it upon, and instead of a discovery of the destination, it's more of a discovery of yourself. So it becomes like an enricher, adventure spirit. A picture of a couple in a kayak paddling through the marsh in Beaufort. That's essentially what we want to symbolize there and kind of pass along to them. This is an activity where you can find yourself as a visitor to our destination. And so I mentioned reconnect earlier, and that's kind of what we're getting at, and we feel like that approach has worked. So it looks good in print or online, but when we turn it over, our travel writer, our public relations side of the thing, getting our story out there, finding the outlets that tell it. So features in Charlotte Magazine, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and then other programs such as Coastal Living, Southern Living. Coastal Living featuring Happy Seaside Town was a lot of effort, but the city of Beaufort and the area as a whole, played a very large role in that. And then of course our own media, the website redesign, making it easier for folks to find the information when they get there, and then making the execution the conversion to show up.
Absolutely, that's big, and just what a great philosophy, and it's so cool to see how those efforts have translated. So great information. Talk to me a little bit about how you decide which advertisers you're going to use, and once you do decide, do you have any way to track them to really see if they're successful or not?
Yeah, so our method, I explained to you the three-prong approach, and we'll use all of those outlets to get our message out there. So when you're talking about paid advertising, for us, it's about lead generation at this point in the campaign. When you kind of reconstruct the whole model, we owe the county, Beaufort County, and the city of Beaufort, and the folks that we represent, measurable numbers. We're spending the public funds in a marketing effort, so tracking is very important. We choose our print pieces based on whether or not we can track the leads. So if they have a lead generation component, we will entertain it, and if it fits our core demographic and to the area that we want to, the return on it is sound, we'll venture down that path. If something does not offer leads, therefore it's untrackable, and we kind of stay away from it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's a great way to find out what's working for us, right? Now, branding is a term that we hear thrown around a lot. So I want to get a little bit of clarity here. What's the difference between branding and the creative messaging that you use in marketing a destination? So talk to us about that.
Certainly. Creative messaging in what we use is you take your story and you pair it with an artistic look or a design feature or a core staple that people feel aesthetic appeal, and you split it across those three markets I talked about: the owned media, the paid media, and the earned media. And you reach that through that proper content, put it in the alignment with your audience. Branding is what folks already tell you about yourself. For example, Beaufort is a historic downtown waterfront community. There's no changing that, and we're not going away from that either. But what I've learned is over time that people will try to rebrand themselves or contest. And I often say, the calf rarely brands itself. Usually it's branded when someone else, and we've just taken our story, wrapped it in a creative message, and that is the creative messaging that we use in our advertising and marketing.
All right. Well, such interesting stuff, and thank you for that clarity there. Greatly appreciated.
No,
thank you for joining us
thank
today.
you for having me. Appreciate it.
Special thank you to Rob Wells and the Beaufort Regional Chamber of Commerce, and a special thank you to Mayor Billy Kaiserling for joining us today. And thank you for watching. I'm Jessa Jeremiah. Please join us next time for your Beaufort News.